Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are reviewing a Plat Diva player. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps me out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate that. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, what sort of promos, special events we have going on, all that good stuff. Okay, so we have our Diva. Your tank partners are Reinhardt. And you have an Anna and a Mercy. Mercy's probably going to primarily be with the Echo, but I like this comp. I like it. Well, I liked it better when your Echo was alive. I don't really like you pre-boostering here. You're pre-boostering because you know that you're going to have to save this Resd Echo. The problem with that is if you had been hooked instead, I guess you being hooked instead would have actually been preferable. If you lose your Echo, you're very likely to lose the fight at this point. Yeah, I'm good. Play the angle. Don't really like the micro missiles. Clear it. Sure, make him unhappy. Leave. Okay. It's pretty over. Your guys' positioning has been compromised so poorly. I'd have preferred you to walk to get closer here so that you could have covered more distance here, because this is the dangerous, this is the hard transition. You want this to happen faster.
Time to raise my DVA. Routing tower to forward barrier.
We're just trying to fight our way back in. We're Valking this? Really? Okay, you can't control that. This is just stall. Yeah, I know. I'm not reviewing the Mercy. Why did you... You're here. I'm perfectly fine with you being here. Are you getting callouts about the things over there? Is that what's causing this? Why do you want to be here instead? Your other high ground was just as good from protecting your Reinhardt standpoint, and it was better from a denying this standpoint, which is the more common rotation. Now, you might be aware of these guys, in which case this makes a little more sense, but I'd like to know what the callouts are. Okay, you are aware of them. I don't really want you in the Hog's face to start, because that lets the Hog hook you. Like, you want to be thinking of Diva and your matchup against Hog in this way of, hey, there's a Hog on the board on their team, there's a Diva on the board on my team. I would actually like to keep my boosters and have DM available until he hooks anyone but me. And he would go, I would like to hook Diva because I can't play the game because a pink robot will show up in my face and DM whoever I hook. If I hook anyone that isn't Diva. That's sort of how you want this matchup to work. You want to be like, he's not allowed to get any value, and you're going to just sort of pepper things. You're going to go, hey, when he does make his move, I'm going to deny it. You're going to be hard to hook. You can micro-missile him from far away if you want. Like, you can micro-missile other people. If you're actually going to get into this fight with him, though, you're not going to micro-missile him before he's popped Breather, because if you do decent damage to him, he'll Breather, and he'll get the damage reduction against it. So I'm getting micro, but for the Hog matchup, this matters. Temporal, you don't think plus 5 HPS they would have saved the point? No, I do not. So yeah, you pop Micro Missile. You're trying to peel the Doomfist, fine. What are you DMing? What are you DMing? Fine, he doesn't have cooldowns. You're using a lot of melees on Hog, I've noticed. Like, It's okay if you're trying to control your momentum with melees, but remember, Hog is a giant target. 30 damage from a melee on him isn't as good as a half a second of shooting him at close range. Half a second of shooting him at close range with D.Va, with her giant spread weapon, with his giant hitbox, is a lot of damage. Why? Why didn't... Good. You see your Reinhardt, so DM him. DM... You're just slow. Okay. Yeah. So, we knew this was happening, and you have boosters. It's time to remake. You might feel like I have 300 health, but you do know a couple important things. A, they don't have lamp, and you know that they don't have lamp. So this is actually a pretty decent self-destruct. Their barrier is also already out on the field. Like, this is a pretty decent self-destruct. You go, their barrier's out, their lamp has already been used. If I throw this self-destruct, they're all sort of in the same place. I can throw a self-destruct up and a little bit past them that explodes like here-ish, and they'll be forced to run forward into my team, or they'll be forced to retreat to cover, which will buy us time, and it'll get me a new mech when I'm out of armor on my mech and not positioned terribly well. This was a self-destruct moment. Where you're not getting like the best offensive self-destruct for eliminations. You're not getting the best remech self-destruct, but you're doing enough of all of them that this was a good self-destruct. This could have been a good self-destruct. Now it's going to be a bad self-destruct, because now it has zero offensive potential. Not zero, but very low offensive potential. They're walking into it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That almost worked because they walked into it. Okay. You've got to go to point. It sucks, but you gotta. Okay, now you don't. Oh, you hit the emote button. Really? Really? You're gonna do an emote, which is the D.Va equivalent of teabagging when really? Okay. Okay. Okay, so your team is just getting melted, and that's a problem, that your team is just getting melted. It's going to make it very hard to win the match. On the other hand, you're D.Va. You can do a lot to stop the other team from melting them. You're just going to have to identify exactly what to shut down. And I would recommend we start with the Roadhog and we work our way out from there. Maybe that was an accidental emote. Maybe, but it was standing on top of the hero that he'd just come in and... Yeah. We can hope it was an accidental emote. Wrong button? Okay. Okay. So we're gonna need to play to allow our team to stay alive longer in the beginning of the fight, because your team is just getting rolled. And you can't cover all of your team's mistakes, but you're D.Va, you're pretty darn good at covering your team's mistakes. Let's see what we can do.
Greetings. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Okay. Is there still a Roadhog on the other team? Are you going to get hooked? Okay. Oh, the Winston bubble hurts so much. I don't love this. And the reason I don't love this is, well, yes, this would be a good aggressive D.Va angle. Your team isn't ready to aggress yet. Your Winston doesn't have bubble, and you know it, because he used his bubble here. So, like, I expected you to go here. I expected you to... Really, this is where I expected you to go. I expected you to tuck behind this, sort of do scouting, and then drop. I did not expect you to go in aggressive like this, because I know your Winston isn't going to go in. Does this help your team rotate in a little bit? Yes, it does. But your team had this Winston bubble to get in if they wanted. Yes, they can't get here as fast as you and Winston did, but like they had this Winston bubble, and you're still a somewhat credible threat by being here. Like this is I'm going to distract you guys, but it's like I'm going to distract you guys in a 1v5 manner with no team support, which I just don't want. And you don't have your boosters to leave immediately. So this is really aggressive for a D.Va play. I'm not totally sure why you were DMing him there, to be honest. Like, he couldn't shoot you. And I don't care if he shoots at your team. That might not make sense, but I don't care if he shoots at your team because he shouldn't have had a good angle and you've put plenty of pressure on him. I don't think he had I don't think he had any finishing shots on your team there.
Routing towards forward barrier.
Yeah, she was a review. Okay. So you got to be careful with those micro missiles. I'm not going to rewind again to show it, but those micro missiles, you want to use micro missiles when you expect that you're going to get decent value out of them. That doesn't mean that you have to hit 100% of your micro missiles, but you want your micro missiles to either be as part of a dive where you're trying to actually assassinate someone. You want to use them potentially after defensive cooldowns have come out, or you can use them in the poke stage, like, hey, it's totally fine to use them in the poke stage, but you want to use them in the poke stage where they're actually going to get some value, not when someone's immediately going to be able to hotbind cover. You want to find sort of an opening to get those off. And this really doesn't do that, and it's a pretty common D.Va mistake. Let's see if you continue to make it. Why are you DMing? What are you DMing? There's nothing there. Okay. Why did you back up from her? Are you not comfortable with your aim? I can live with this. You do that to arrest your momentum. Shoot her. Why are you backing up? Why are you backing up? Just shoot her. You don't... Okay. When she's scoped in, so I know you're low health. Like, I know you're low health, but you want to be in her belly shooting her with your weapon. That's what you want to do. Like, we're going to hurt you. Or a little higher in her chest. We're going to melt her. Like, I know you don't have health, but this fight isn't going to get better by you DMing. It's simply not going to become a better fight by you DMing a second from now, 2 seconds from now. What you DM when you're fighting Widow is when she actually raises her weapon to her eye, that's when she can do real damage. And you can even time it around has she actually had any time to charge that shot. We don't need to DM her SMGing her Widow 76ing you down, which she's going to try to do because you have no health, because that is the less threatening thing from her. We want to shoot her while she's doing that. We're not going to get a better opening than when she's SMGing us to shoot at her with our left click. Unless she just jumps off the edge. Sure. Temporal put the dancing emote in the title. Ha!
D.Va re-engaging.
Don't emote winnable fights. Plat D.Va, that was not a winnable fight. But it was a stallable fight. Good booster patience.
Time to raise my APM.
It's fine, just leave. Stack in here, stack in here. No, you're gonna get hooked. Again, this is the same thing with micro missiles. So here you are. Aha, micro missiles! This hog's gonna be gone. Congrats. You got like a fifth of your micro missiles off before he's gone. And now you're turning way into the open for this. And you gave him the opportunity to hook you, which he missed, but you gave him the opportunity to hook you. This is better. This is way too aggressive. You cannot be down here. Your Winston isn't available. Your team isn't set up with like super strong angles. Your Hanzo's in here. Your McCree's sort of shooting, but like you know that your team isn't winning this fight right now. You can't be this aggressive. Excuse me? Okay. That should have worked.
This takes a little under. I'm on fire!
Okay. I'll just deal. I'll just deal.
Attack this fort. Objective A captured.
Heal up!
New defense point. Objective B.
Check on your team. Check on your team. They're there. So are you going to take left control? How are you going to do this? I don't need you to join them. Like, I don't need you to protect your team. You can protect your team. You can go, I'm going to be over here to protect my team. But I don't really need you to do that. The only thing that's going to dive your team is the Doomfist, and you can flush the Doomfist out early by finding him, and you can provide a lot more influence on the fight from over here. Whether you get there by directly boostering, whether you get there by finding the Doomfist ahead of time, whether you get there by walking the long way and coming out over here. Getting control of left helps a lot.
Up here!
Wasted hook. Not sure what you were DMing. Why are you so far away? This is happening. Hook just got used. You have freedom to use boosters. You have freedom to use boosters because Hook just got used. Now, there's still some opportunity cost of using boosters. If you use boosters to go in, you can't use boosters to go peel, etc. And you could be going, hey, I wonder what's going on back here. Oh, whoops, this is happening. This is something I could have helped with, etc. But that's fine. If we're choosing to play aggressive diva instead, I can live with that. And there's the hog, and you might be prioritizing the hog, but I don't know why we're still DMing, and I don't know why we aren't getting closer to this fight now where our weapon is more effective. Like, the hog's hook is still on CD. We can get ourselves up here where we're more effective. We can do a, push through the hog and still U-turn up here and finish where we're more effective. Like, we can get some value out of this. This is not an effective range for Diva. It's simply not. This is like, oh, tickle Mercy, stop her from her health regen activating range. That's what this is. We could be up here, where at least we get the headshots, and the headshots help us a little bit more, and we'd be closer. We could be up here, where it's much the same thing. We could even go up over here, though that's a little more questionable. But, like, this isn't helping. But you being here is I'm choosing to protect my backline. Well, what are you protecting your backline from? Because the Doomfist already got his Mercury elimination and is about to get his Moira elimination. So you're not protecting your backline. You're pretending to protect Zen. And most of your play hasn't led me to believe that you're playing Diva right now to protect your backline. So if you're playing for forward value, if you're playing to enable your Winston, you got to be up here. You got to be up here. If you're playing to protect your backline, what happened? Okay. He was being aggressive to farm ult and was going to use it to clear point. What do you think, Temporal, what do you think of Monkey placing Bubble to allow teammates through a choke? It's not great. It does have situational uses, but it's not great. He did that a few times on first point. It's really not great because it's like signaling to the world that you can't push, that you've committed something really, really powerful. It is much cheaper to use DM for those rotations. That said, teams generally aren't organized enough to use DM for those rotations on ladder. It's cheaper in a Monkey Diva setup to use DM for those rotations. It's a lot cheaper. But because you can use part of your DM and still have it, and you regenerate DM faster than the bubble. And the bubble just really doesn't hold very well for a choke that's being spammed hard enough that your team wants to get through it. Like it has its place. It's not an absolutely never thing, but it's done way too often to use bubbles in the choke like that. And the only places for it would be when your team is rotating across. Not like, oh, I'm bubbling the choke so my team can fight in the choke.
Stop one. Healed up.
I like the angle pressure here. I'd like a little more checking on your team, though. Like, you take the angle pressure and you pay a lot of attention to them, and I'm going, where's your team? What's going on with them? I'd kind of like to know this because even though, the thing that I've sort of said, hey, you should mark is their hog, the other thing that you want to be thinking, I mean, there's really three things that you'd think about marking on this team. These are the three things that are going to be the most threatening to your team. McCree hasn't been taking a lot of high ground off angles, so you haven't really been needing to think about answering him because you don't answer him when he's in the other team. You answer him when he's flashing your Reinhardt, or you answer him when he's taking high ground off angles, etc., and you need to boost over DM, etc. So you're not having to do much about that. You're not handling Hog as well as I'd like in terms of matching your booster's DM to his hook, etc., not letting him hook you, making him try to hook other people and denying them, etc. And you're not really paying any attention to the Doomfist. If we're trying to defensively win this game and your team has been as squishy as paper or as flimsy as paper right now, it needs to be in a, well, I'm going to shut down the threats to my team. You can also play the game in a, I'm going to help my teammate hard dive, but your teammate is not a Winston anymore. You're not doing the hard dives anymore. So you're peeling for your Sigma isn't going to be a thing you're going to do a ton of. You're not going to enable aggressive plays anymore. Now you're going to be forced to play more of a don't let them get value style as opposed to a get your own value style, which D.Va is very good at a don't let them get value style. So I want to see what happens, but that's going to require paying a little bit more attention to how is your team doing? Where are they? Okay, there's the Doom. Great. You don't actually need to boost at that Doom because as soon as he's used a cooldown on you like that to knock on value, he kind of has to leave. You can shoot at him, and if he gets weak, you can boost at him to try to finish him, but... What are you doing? No! The hook is happening and you're not there! No! No! Goodbye, world. Goodbye.
I'm with you. Group up with me.
Peace be upon you.
Okay. You guys are flying double off tank into each other, not even maybe. Maybe the three of you are ready to push. Maybe the four of you are ready to push. Not really. Maybe. This is not particularly well staged. These guys are way too far back. Way too far back to take advantage of any opening that you take care of. There's a Doomfist back here that you've completely lost track of. You have no idea what's going on with this Doomfist. Your team doesn't have good control of this platform. Your team doesn't have good control of this. Your team doesn't have control over here. Your team doesn't have control back here. Your team doesn't have control of this. Like, you need two of these things. If your team had good, solid control of this and control of this, and all six of you were here, sure. If your team had good, solid control of this and had someone up here, great. Has someone back here? Amazing. If your team has control of this and has some control of this, okay, you can do this. This is like the team is so incredibly not ready for this self-destruct to get any value. And I don't know why this is going out. Like, I think you're just frustrated that your team hasn't been able to get anything done. And I get that your team hasn't been able to get anything done. But as D.Va, your solution now to your team not being able to get anything done is just to be like, nope, if I don't let their Doomfist get value, if I don't let their Hog get value, if I don't let their McCree get value, if I don't let their Anna get value. And you don't actually need to cover all of these, but cover like two of these. And in this game, my recommendation would be these two. Try to do what you can to not let these two get value. Your team will eventually put together a meaningful push as long as they stop getting picked off by these two. Like, they will eventually put together a meaningful push. I'd highly recommend you prioritize mentally tracking where these two players are for this match and going, how do I answer them as D.Va? Okay, we talked through how to answer Hog a lot as D.Va. How do I answer Doomfist as D.Va? Well, the answer to how I answer Doomfist as D.Va is I go, okay, I know where he is, I track what his cooldowns are, I think about the places that he would want to stage from, and I either go bother those places that he might want to stage from so that I run into him early and can fight him, or I play in places where, hey, I can very easily and quickly react to protecting my backline and getting the DM on them when they get uppercut. Because what'll happen is they'll get slam uppercut, and he needs some fist pump, some shots in the air, and you can DM over your teammate to protect them from those, and your teammate will survive. Not with very much health, but they'll survive unless they get punched into a wall. And if they get punched into a wall, that's more complicated. You can try to see that incoming and try to body block for it, because him punching you into a wall is meaningless, and then he has to use his other abilities to escape, or he's all-inning, in which case he'll get eliminated. I'm not going to lie, Doomfist isn't like a super easy hero to answer as D.Va, but D.Va is totally fine for answering him, and these two are the ones that you want to check. If you stop letting these two play a pick-off style and pick apart your team is going to eventually put together a successful push. But you're going to have to play a more defensive D.Va and a less aggressive one. But this whole timing you know is wrong.
Meteor strike. Step Rider.
I'm not a good loser.
You're welcome.
Assemble at this location. Peace be upon you.
The outcome was never
Come on.
in doubt. The outcome was never in doubt.
Hello. Peace be upon you.
So again, we would like to avoid specifically getting hooked by Hog. We want to be close enough to react to Hog, but we don't want to get hooked by Hog, because we want him to be forced to hook someone else that we can then make him get zero value out of hooking. We know Hog's there. We had a Sonic arrow that Hog was there. Why did we peek this? Why did we peek this? We can see that the Hog is there, and we can see that the Hog is looking at us. Like, oh look,
Be upon you.
that's a Sonic arrow. That Hog, we can, yeah, okay, fine.
Time to raise my APM. I need healing.
Okay. You hear the Doomfist. You hear the Doomfist. Who is your Doomfist? Who is this Doomfist going to want to go after on your team? Who is this Doomfist going to want to go after on your team? Well, probably not your Moira. She's really hard to get. So probably your Zen, maybe your McCree, because if he eliminates him, he has more freedom. Could be your Hanzo. Well, where are these people on your team? I don't know. Or where's the Doomfist? I don't know. But you should. Okay, I do know, because I can go like this and say, here's your Zen, here's your McCree, etc. But, like, you should know. Oh, Doomfist was going after your Hanzo.
I'm with you.
Unfortunate.
I'm with you.
Okay, you're going to support the aggressive play. Right idea.
Hello.
다시 한판 해보자고.
Oh, Reinhardt now. That's not going to help, though. The issue is your backline getting picked apart. This is happening. You're fighting in the Transcendence, fine. You see the Nano Hog. This Nano Hog isn't really dangerous, and now you've been purpled. This Nano Hog isn't dangerous to anyone except you, because you've been purpled. Your team has a Transcendence going. It's still dangerous. He can still hook people, and yes, Transcendence isn't perfect. But at this point, I'm thinking, wait, there's a Nano Hog going on, and there's a Doomfist ult going on. I would really like to be able to react to that Doomfist ult to potentially protect my teammate, who Doomfist is about to give trouble to. Because Doomfist is going to go give trouble somewhere that is not the Transcendence, and I'm not safe in this Transcendence. Turns out I could have gone up here, been like, yes, 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 and then potentially protected my McCree, as long as I don't get hit by the Doomfist ult itself. So, yeah, there's your boost. No, too late. Oh, well. And that's going to be the end? Okay. Rough game. Totally understand it was a rough game. It didn't feel good. So the real thing that would have unlocked this game, is your teammate surviving. You were on one of the best heroes for making that happen, and that is D.Va. So you just have to go, what is hurting our team? What is making our team not successful? Because to win on second point of 2 CP, we can't just get eliminations. We have to perfectly get eliminations. We have to get eliminations in such a way where we lose nobody. Or if we lose somebody, we've already eliminated 4, firmly have control of the point, firmly have a tick and a half, etc. Like, it's not good enough to go, we traded 2 to 1. No, that's not good enough. You have to firmly win, which means it's actually more important in your stuff. If you can't just hit them with an overwhelming ult combo, it's more important that you don't lose people in the way and that you just don't let the opponents get into the fight at all, the opponents on defense. And that means I'm not going to let you get value. Like, these are things that I'm going to watch. Can you block all of them perfectly all the time? No. But if you can go, I'm only going to let Doomfist get 50% of his value, and I'm only going to let Hog get 40% of his value, you're going to do great. You're going to do great. Your team is going to be perfectly fine if you do that. You're going to get so many more real push opportunities because you're not going to get picked up before the fight starts, or what was happening more often, the fight sort of starts and Doomfist went and got someone, and Hog went and got someone. Like, you need to play 2 D.Va's shutdown potential. You need to understand what your matchups are, not individually, but what your matchups are specifically to deny value, and you need to be willing to play to those when your team is struggling to get in, when your team is just falling apart like wet toilet paper. Like, you need to understand, how do I reinforce this? How do I make say your teammate is a 5 out of 10 and the opponent is a 8 out of 10. You can do enough to help your teammate win this fight, even without committing a ton of resources, DMing the Doomfist at the right time, DMing the Hog in the right way, playing from the right distance to him, pre-bothering the Doomfist, etc. Even if you're not beating these people, even if you're not eliminating the Doomfist or eliminating the Hog or whatever the case may be, if you play in the right way to deny these guys value, your team will eventually, through happenstance, put together a successful push. Like, that's what you got to be doing. That's how you turned this from there's just no way we're going to get progress to, okay, we've got it. We should be able to get the finish. Would you have won this match? No. This time bank was probably going to be unbeatable. If you'd played more defensively on the first round, maybe you could have made this time bank much less of a problem, and you could have held them until they finish with 130 or something. But you'd have had to more quickly identify that your team needs you to play more defensively, and that was going to be hard. This could have been a match that you at least had a prayer in, though, as opposed to this. So that's going to be the big thing. You need to recognize who needs to be answered when you're playing D.Va, and you need to know how to answer them. And I talked that through for both of them. But if you have questions, please let me know in chat what those questions are about, and I'm happy to in more detail discuss how you match up, how you play to not let those heroes get value, etc. And we can even get a little bit into the, okay, well, how do I compromise because they're threatening different places? Hog is threatening from the front, Doomfist is going to threaten from the side. Yes, this is the art of D.Va. You sit sort of in a place where you go, I can boost her to answer either threat. I can't answer both at the same time, but I can boost her to open either threat. Am I going backline? Am I going frontline? You have to decide that fight to fight, and you're almost exclusively frontline right now, and you're almost exclusively frontline offensively as opposed to frontline to answer things. Remember, there's great things you can do in the frontline to shut down the opponent's frontline value, including things like, hey, let me throw a tick of DM over my Rhine while he's swinging. Anyways, that's the big thing. The other thing, this will be easier for you to work on because this is a more micro thing. I'm going to say as we talk about your micro missiles is use your micro missiles when they can actually get value. You're using your micro missiles too often when people can immediately break line of sight on them. And then you're not having them when you actually go in for dives, for Annas that you could finish off, etc. Using your micro missiles for poke is totally fine, but try to get like 2/3, 3/4 value out of them. Even if that value is into a barrier, try to use them when they're actually going to get most of them off on opponents before the opponents can or are willing to break line of sight. So look for bigger openings to use your micro missile. If you're just going to get a couple missiles into them before they break line of sight, it's generally just not worth using them. It would be better to have them in case some opportunity shows up to dive them or to peel someone that's coming in with them, etc. So I'd really like you to clean up your poke micro missiles. That's going to let you have them more. Using them in poke is fine, but it's going to, if we get rid of some of these bad poke ones, it's going to let you have them more when you do go in for dives on like these Annas, etc. And this will be the easier change for you to make, I expect. The harder change is going to be this sort of, hey, I need to identify who's doing work, who's making things a problem for our team, and I need to understand how I can shut them down and get the judgment of which I should be going after when, etc. This is the hard part. But your answer for working on that would be you're intentionally going to play D.Va in a very peel heavy, in a very defensive heavy style. You're sort of going to go, I'm intentionally going to play to shut people down until I get this. Even if you could win more games in the short term by going, I'm just going to go in hard with my Winston every time. I'm going to go in hard with my ball every time. My Ryan's in. I'm going to dive to go try to take out their Anna, etc. Even if you could short term win more games with that, you need to practice this other style so you can one trick this style for 5-10 games if you want to, just to get a feel for it. And that's probably going to be the fastest path to improvement for you. Okay. If people have questions, go ahead and throw them up in chat now. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, special events we have going on, all that good stuff. Oh, my comp game just finished as this one did. Neat. D.Va's a support? Sometimes. Tanks are sort of supports in the first place. Like, tanks and supports, they're sort of, it's kind of a meaningless distinction, and I don't mean support as in healer. I mean, like, you're playing to enable your team to win. Everyone is playing to enable your team to win, but if you look at support kits, tank kits, like other games, MOBAs, etc., would define, like, things like, oh, we've given stuns to our tank, or we've given knockbacks to our tank. Those might live on a support in another game. Or we have our tank, and our tank has the ability to give people speed, for example. That might live on a tank in a MOBA. Like, there's a lot of crossover. Doomfist and Hog on sale, half off. There you go. Poking Doomfist on his way in is also quite helpful for dealing with him. Poking him on his way in is helpful for dealing with him, and poking him ahead of time so that he can't, so that he's never comfortable going in is also very helpful. Honestly, this time bank might have been beatable if D.Va had identified that peeling was the win condition and that the enemy didn't know how to counter adapt. Possible. Will this peel playstyle work in 5v5 when that leaves the rest of the NAV team free to press forward? Who knows? Who knows? And what I mean by that is the peel playstyle could still work because in some ways it'll work because the peel style in some situations is just a counter dive, right? Like if you're playing the D.Va in a peel playstyle and the thing that you're doing the most peeling of is their Winston, well, you're playing her in a counter dive playstyle, and that should still work, yes, especially if you have teammate like a Tracer. If you're trying to play it in like a I'm just not going to let someone on their team get value, like I'm not going to let their Doomfist get value, and I'm going to watch him super closely, I'd have to think about that more. I'm a little concerned because while I didn't do a video on the AMA yesterday from the Blizzard devs because there just wasn't enough there, the one thing I did see that gave me a little bit of pause was one of the devs saying we're seeing a lot of people that seem to think that all the main tanks, all the off tanks will be gone and it'll just be main tanks that played, and that's wrong. Like, you guys don't understand. We're actually making the main tanks more like off tanks and the off tanks more like main tanks, but they'll probably play closer in a style to off tanks. And I'm looking at that and going, the devs don't understand their game, because again, if that's what's happening, we're going to be playing a corner holding simulator, In which case, yeah, D.Va could work just fine. She's like, oh, someone got in, I'm going to answer it, etc. If that's the way the game evolves. But if that's the way the game evolves, no one is going to want to push forward and pressure and take space ever, and it's going to be super disadvantageous to push in past chokes into high ground, etc. So yeah. And if that's the game that we're playing, sure, you can sit in your own backline, throw DM over your Widow as she peeks for 2 seconds, 4 seconds maybe if they give her more DM, and just let your Widow pop off. Sure. That'll be a perfectly viable way to play. But I don't think, based on, unless there's meaningful changes to the game, I think it'll actually be the main tanks that get played. I don't think Blizzard likes that tanks can be supports, and that's why we're seeing 5v5. It makes me sad. I don't know. Maybe. But if they think they're going to design their tanks more, if they think the tanks are all going to be more like off tanks, like the off tanks are more supporty than the main tanks. The main tanks take space. The off tanks are more likely to go, hey, I'm willing to, like the off tanks are sometimes called the peel tanks, defense matrix, bubble, Sigma being able to throw his barrier in the way, throw his barrier to protect other teammates, Hog being able to hook a Winston that dove in on his team or a D.Va that dove in on his team. Like, those are kind of supportive things. Reinhardt's not peeling for his team. That's not happening. That does happen, but you guys get it. What about the tanks that have no ability to go vertical? Yeah, good luck, tanks. Good luck, tanks that have no ability to go vertical. Maybe Hog's hook will have a secondary ability if he can throw it like a grappling hook and climb it. Hog can wall climb with grappling hook, maybe. We'll see. Okay. I think that's going to do it. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. If you guys are enjoying, I already did that. So, we're there. Yeah, that's going to do it for this review. And I think maybe I'll take a look at the owl stuff and see if there's something we want to review there. If that's interesting to you guys, let me know in the Discord, because there probably won't be enough comment time here. If that's not interesting to you, also let me know, because there wasn't a ton of viewership on the owl review that I did over the weekend, though maybe I just picked a poor game for that. So let me know what you guys think there. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, Tempora.